I am freshly showered after appearing in court. That's right, I'm a criminal. No, I got called for jury duty. Yes, during COVID. This is my first time doing jury duty ever. I'm actually really excited about it. My husband's been on a jury before, my mom has been on a jury before. Like, I've always kind of wanted to do jury duty, but I've never been called before. So finally now, during a pandemic, my name gets chosen. So I just kind of wanted to talk about my experience with it and kind of like my thoughts and everything. And I don't know for sure, like as of right now, I don't know if I'm on the jury still. And I don't know if I'm gonna find out next week or not. Like, everything is very much up in the air. Like, things are crazy, obviously, but like things are really crazy right now. So I just wanted to talk about everything, get all my thoughts and feelings out there in the world, and then see if maybe I'd make a vlog about this kind of after the process is over. I know if I end up serving on the jury, I won't be able to talk about anything until like the case is closed, or like maybe even after that. And so, but I just kind of wanted to have a record of everything for me too. Yeah, I think I'll just go ahead and start talking about it. So I got my summons letter last week, and it was really weird and very confusing because it just kept saying over and over again, like in bold, do not show up unless contacted by the bailiff. So I was like supposed to like normally show up Monday morning, but it just kept saying, do not show up. Here's your here's your summons time. Here's when you're supposed to be here. Don't show up. Don't call. Don't come. And I was just like, okay, so like you basically were like, cool, you had to go online and fill out a questionnaire, and it also was like, here's the time and the place you should show up. Don't show up though. And you're like, okay, no problem. So Monday rolled around and I hadn't heard anything. Like, I got my letter last Tuesday. Monday rolled around and I hadn't heard anything, but I have Mondays off normally, so it was like not gonna affect anyone whether or not I go in, no big deal. Kind of sat around a little bit anticipating like what's gonna happen. Like, late in the afternoon I finally got an email that was like, you need to show up on Thursday. So I was like, cool, all right, I've got information. I know I need to go to the courthouse and be there on Thursday because the bailiff contacted me and said show up on Thursday. And I was like, cool, no problem. You had to send back a questionnaire, which actually that turned out to be like the biggest point of contention. These questionnaires, I guess, or like it was one of them. You had to print out the questionnaire, and I guess she was supposed to send us 2 questionnaires and she only sent us 1. That was a whole other thing. This was very disorganized, it turned out, and I felt like it should have been very organized. I'll get into that. I'm gonna go through what happened and then I'll talk about it. But anyway, so I printed it out and sent it back in. I actually had a lot of trouble with my scanner. Like, well, how would you even do that if you didn't have a scanner? Like, it wasn't a fill-outable form. They didn't just ask you to answer the questions in the email, which would have probably been the easiest way. Or they could have just created an online thing where you just like fill out the answers. But anyway, so most people, I guess, never even filled it out. But like, how could you if you didn't have a scanner? It just wasn't set up for you to be able to do anything but print it out and write on it. I knew I was supposed to show up 8:30 Thursday morning. On Wednesday night, I got an email saying, hey, come at 1 o'clock on Thursday. I was like, no big deal. Coming later on Thursday, not a problem. Like, someone's already okay to cover my shift. Like, yeah, I could probably go in the morning, but like it wouldn't be a full morning shift because our morning shifts go to 1:30 and I'd had to leave, like, left at least by 12:30. So I was like, no, it's cool. I'll just like stay and then get ready. It's fine. So showed up there a little before 1 o'clock. Almost had a panic attack. It was weird because like it was fine. Like, there was pretty much, I think, just the jurors there, like the whole courthouse building, and it's very, very close. It's not even 5 minutes away. Got in totally fine. But like, we were up at the top level, and after I got out of the elevator, it was so hot up there, and I was wearing my mask. Everyone was wearing a mask, actually. It was really nice. I had worn long pants because I wanted to look nice. Like, I want to be on the jury. So I dressed presentably, like full face of makeup, and I was wearing like my cute mask. And it was so hot. And I was just like, I didn't bring water. Like, I don't really know about drinking out of the drinking fountain. That's a little sketch with COVID going on, so I was like, I got to try to avoid that. And there were so many people there, like easily, I got there before 1, which was the call time, and there were easily 50 people already there. So I kind of was like, and I found a little quiet place where I could stand, and I was just standing there, so hot. It was ridiculous how hot it was, and there's these big windows. And I, for the first couple minutes, just had to kind of talk myself down from a panic attack. And I think it was entirely the heat and like, you know, like not being able to breathe. The mask is on and you're already like really hot. That was ridiculous how hot it was, actually. they must not have had AC on that level or something. It was cooler in the courtroom once we finally got in there. But like that was like an hour later. After 1 o'clock, like 1:15, the bailiff finally came out and was like, I'll be with you guys soon, and kind of went somewhere else, came back, and then she said, okay, everyone who was here yesterday, come follow me. And we were just like, oh, people were here yesterday also? Well, it was like half the people. Half the people apparently had been called the day before and had come back. So they went into the courtroom, and then after, like, the courtroom we'd been called to, after a while, they came out and went into the next courtroom over. And there was about 14 people at that point. Because I think it was like the right number of jurors, and that looks like that was 14. And there was still some waiting. After a while, like people who were like definitely lawyers, like very nice suits, went past into the same room. I think a total of like 3, like 2 together, like young men who looked exactly alike and had very nice suits. And then like an older guy who was in a nice suit, but he probably had it for a while kind of thing. They all went into the same room, and then everyone else was in there, and I guess that's where they were doing like their final screening, because I guess the judge was eventually in that room as well, because she did like the all rise and everything when they went in there. The rest of us took a while longer, and then we lined up to go into that room, and then she was like, wow, there's so many of you, I didn't expect that many of you. And I was just like, how? You asked us all to be here through email personally. Like, who did you think wasn't coming? She started getting us all in there, and then because we had to sit 6 feet apart, she could only fit 20 of us in the room. So she had to then go find another room for the rest of the group, because I don't know if there was just 20 or not. I don't know how many people were left, but she had to find a separate room for all of those people. So altogether, like, obviously there had to have been a minimum then. If my room was 20, if they were 20, and those people, 54 people altogether were there. So it was a lot. It was a lot more people than like I've been around in the cramped quarters. But anyway, so we sat spread out, and so I was on one of the wooden benches that aren't that comfortable. But it was better than being standing in the hallway. We went in, and it was kind of a big long wait. We eventually had to fill out the same questionnaire that we'd filled out online. You know, like just signing people in too, like took so long. Some people, I guess, had other things going on. I don't know. There were 2 guys who were like desperately trying to get out and to like get her attention, be like, I have anxiety and a doctor's note, and I have depression and a doctor's note. And she just like ignored those guys and was just like, you'll screen out later. You still have to stay. Both of them like just kept trying. And they were both like, I don't know. They probably did have something, but they looked very similar. They were both like the same look, like tall, kind of gangly white dudes who probably smoke or something. Like it was that look. But it was just funny that both of them were just like, I need you to know I have anxiety. And you're just like, it probably is important, dude. But like, one of them she eventually dismissed actually, because he said he'd be in Portland next week. And then I was just like, how come that's a screen out? I don't get it. I was very confused. So eventually she picked up that first form that we had already filled out and brought us back a second form. And that was when it was like, oh, this is getting real. Because the second form asked a lot of questions about like our comfort level or our experience with things relating to murder and mental health. And then like our opinion on psychiatrists in courtrooms and things like that. But it was just like asking questions about like, I think they called it like mental disease or detriment or something. It was weird the way they phrased it, but it was like, are they talking about mental health in the example of like depression, or are they talking about mental health in the example of like autism? And it was so unclear. Like I don't remember exactly the wording. I should have like made notes or something. But the way they worded it, it was mental disorder and something where it was just like, it feels like it could be anything that you're talking about here. But they're asking about just like you or anyone close to you involved with these things ever. And one of them was actually even like direct contact with people who have been involved in violent crime. Those are all my yes answers, because Josh's job is he used to be an EMT, and now he does law enforcement with the National Park Service. But so he still does medical calls. He's still an EMT, and actually right now he's on fire detail for I think they're calling it like the jungle campfire or something. I don't remember. It's in Natchez. but he's gotten sent to a fire detail, which is really scary. Wildland fire is really, really scary. It's his least favorite part of the job. Actually, he loves doing medical things. Josh is big on the medical stuff. Whenever there's like a broken leg, or actually he had one where a guy like split his leg open, and he loves to tell that story. He thought it was the most interesting thing ever. He's transported a lot of patients. He's been with patients who've died and things. So like he's transported mental health patients. Like he's transported a lot of things, and he's also involved with conflicts, because within the park then they do all the things. That's what national park rangers do, all the things. If it's something that you would normally need a policeman for, National Park Ranger will do that in the park. If it's something you need a firefighter for, National Park Ranger will do that in the park. If you need someone medical, that's what the National Park Rangers are there for. Like, they do all of the stuff, just because someone's got to do all of that. And then on top of that, of course, they do like the interp and talking to people about like you live in a park, you come to love it because they're beautiful places. So all of them learn a lot of information, but they are also being the 911 people just in general. So he loves doing the medical stuff so much. He doesn't find the like cop type things interesting, but it's a lot of like traffic stops, or like, no, you can't take rocks out of the park. And then it's their job to be like, no, you can't take this thing out of the park, or like, hey, you don't have a permit for this, you can't be here. It's mostly that for them. They're just like, hey, you can't do that, or please don't destroy this like historic thing. That's their job. But he also then does the fire calls, and those are scary. So he's doing that. We have another kitty who's been living with him. Cora is Josh's kitty, and I haven't talked about her. I obviously haven't shown her. I haven't actually posted about her on social media at all, just because she's living with him right now, and she's gonna come live with the boys and me once he moves back here after the summer. But I'm gonna have to go up and get her and bring her back early so she can live with the boys, because he's going to be on the fire detail and he's not going to be home. And there are people in the park who can watch her. Like, it's no big deal, but she's going to come home with me. So I have to drive there and back again on Sunday. But that's my day I can do it, because I have to appear in court again on Monday. But let's get back to the court stuff, but basically all of my yes answers were pretty much because my husband's job means that, yeah, someone I'm close to has dealt with all of these. And there are some things that, like, I have other people in my life who have some experience with some of these things. Like, there's a history of bipolar and depression within my family. I have friends who have various relationships with various mental health. I wish I remembered what it said, like mental disorder and disturbance. It was so weird. It was phrasing you would not normally have phrased if you. There would have been a distinction normally. Like, I don't know. They're not talking about, like, is it like, are you talking about people with disability? Are you talking about people with, like, psychosis? Like, no idea what that question actually meant. Anyway, but there are people on broad sides of those spectrums that I could imagine that I am close to. That's what it comes down to. So I said yes on some of those, and I was just like, having the anxiety thing of, like, exactly what I'm going to say, like, what are my connections, like, what will I tell them when they ask me, inevitably, why I put yes on these questions. Well, that never happened. After we filled out the questionnaire, and, when they sent us the initial paper, there was, like, a long juror number. It was, like, 7 numbers. So most of us had, like, taken that with us, and all of the things asked for a juror number. We all put that on there. After we'd filled out all the paperwork, she came back and was like, here are your juror numbers. And it was like super short. Mine's 74. Such short numbers. And then she left again, and we were just all sitting there with our papers all like collected, and we were just like, so this other number's not our juror number. And then there was like a second bailiff in the room, just chilling. I don't know what she was doing. But she was just like, no, the number she gave you is your number. It's your juror number. It needs to be on all the paperwork and everything. We're just like, the paperwork we don't have and didn't have our numbers before that? We all put our other number. And she was just finally like, they can figure it out because they made the mistake. Which seems fair. But that's what I want to talk about, like, the disorganization. It just seemed like they had all summer where, like, the courts have been closed since, I think it was since March. maybe it was since May. They've been closed for a while at least. And obviously they feel like this is a necessary thing, so they want to start it back up. And I was like, cool. So I had thought like the major screen out, like the, you know, you'd normally like show up and then sit there for like a week waiting for your number to get called and all that. I thought that was just like screened out completely. And I thought that's great. Like, yeah, screen it out online. Like they should do that anyway. You should have the initial thing and then have the auto screen outs way ahead of time. And then, because of especially if you're doing it all electronically, like you're avoiding like racial discriminations and things like that. Like that's not going to happen at that step at least. Like I know eventually going to be in. I was confused why so many of us were there. And it seemed like you could screen out this next step based on these questionnaires. Like we could have done all of this online and not this day I could have done remotely, you know, like this almost I didn't need to be there for, since all we did was fill out those questionnaires. And then the next step would just be going in those smaller groups to talk to apparently the judge and the lawyers so that they can like really screen you out and figure out who they actually want on the trial. It did seem like this was an unnecessary step if we're all being safe for COVID. But also, it was so disorganized where she was just like, well, I'm gonna have to find another room for the other people, like, didn't expect this many people here. And it was just like, how? How did you not expect this many people here? How did you set up this questionnaire that then we had to fill out again anyway? Like, why did you even send it in the first place? Like, why did everything get kind of shifted around? And then at the very end, too, well, we didn't get our juror numbers until we were all done with everything. So it was like, am I going to remember my juror number? Like, I wrote it down, but not everybody brought something to write it down on. She went through them very quickly. And then at the end, she was just like, well, you guys are going to have to come back on Monday. You can either come in the morning or the afternoon. And we were just like, oh, do we just like either one? She's like, no, you have to tell me which one because I need to know. And then we were like, oh, okay, like, which one should we do? And she was just like, well, then you tell me. And then I'll just have a head count. And it was just like, oh, okay. So I want to go in the afternoon then because I'm going to have to go pick up Cora on Sunday. So on Monday, I'd rather sleep in, honestly. And she just kept being like, oh, well, okay, so anyone who's coming in the morning, you can just leave. And then she was just like, kept asking the people in the afternoon, like, you're staying in the afternoon? You're going to come in the afternoon? You're going to come in the afternoon? We're just like, yeah, you said to. And then she was like, oh, I think there's going to be too many in the afternoon. We'll have to tell the other people in the other room that they'll all have to come in the morning. It's just like, why not just assign us? Like, this is the morning room, this is the afternoon room. Like, you have the power, lady. It was very weird. But, so then that, and then also, one guy asked, like, where are we supposed to meet? Like, are we supposed to come back here? She's like, no, we won't be able to have this room. This room will be occupied. Like, so where do we go in the morning? And finally she was just like, I guess you'll just meet out in the hall, and then I'll come get you and bring you to the new location. It's just like, you had, I'm sure she had, like, a million other things going on. I'm sure she has so many other things to think about, and, like, that she was doing. Like, obviously she was going into the other room, she was dealing with the 2 rooms, but, like, we saw very little of her. But she didn't seem very organized the times that we did see her. And then the one guy who she was just like, yeah, you can go since you'll be in Portland. I was just like, I feel like that was not supposed to be a screen out factor. That was weird. So that was my first date. It was mostly sitting and kind of being uncomfortable and nervous. Playing a lot of Pokemon Go. Because there are a lot of stops around the courthouse. I guess we're going to see. I'm really interested to see. I want to be on the case, but I also, like, when I saw that it was clearly something to do with murder and mental health, it was like, oh, so it's like a serious case. The case my husband was on, which I guess is like, was sort of famous in this area, I guess. I don't know, I never heard about it, but it had to do with, vaguely had to do with busting a prostitution ring. Very interesting stuff. My mom's one that she was on was just like a landlord and tenant dispute, so hers was the least interesting. Like, a murder case is a big thing, and I'm really interested. Like, I really want to be a part of it. Like, I love watching true crime and things like that, but also, I just feel like I don't know what the process is really like. I don't know, like, I know it's mostly like a show. I know that by the time you go to court, like, the judge knows all the information, the jury, like, not the jury, I'm the jury, the lawyers know all the information, like, they've already got all of it. And so they're performing for you to get a verdict, essentially. So it's a little bit like they're putting on a show for you that's like a really important show, and you need to pay very close attention because the details very much matter. and you need to make an informed decision based on the details. So I just think it would be very interesting, and I want to have the chance to look at all the details and come to a conclusion based on all of this evidence. Like, I enjoy that kind of thing, and I think it would be very interesting to be a part of it and to see other people's mindset about it. Like, I'm really interested in it. I'm a little sensitive. So it's like, as much as I want to do it, once I saw that it was about that, I was just like, I worry I'm gonna like be sad. Like, what if I cry? Is that weird to be a juror who cries? Like, I don't know. Well, because also, like, of course you read the news, and like the recent news in this area is about at least what appears to be from, like, the guy is in holding now, and I was just like, what if it's the same thing? But apparently shot and mutilated the bodies of his wife and, I believe, child, and they were found like in the ocean or something, like in a bag. And that's been going on for a while. But I was reading that article today, and they're like, yeah, he's actually like in prison in your county right here. And I was like, what if it's that case? What if I've read too much of the news? Unlikely, but also, who knows? Man, if it turns out to be, it's gonna be the best video ever if you're ever allowed to hear it, because I predicted it. But I want to do it. I'm really interested. I feel bad for my coworkers because it says that the trial will run no later than the 15th of September, but right now it's the 20th of August. So if I get chosen next week, it's gonna be Monday through Thursday, which means I can only work on Friday and Saturday, which really sucks for my coworkers. And I feel bad, but it's also like, it is jury duty, so it's not like something I can get out of. And I also feel like I deserve this. I deserve to get out of work and like enjoy doing something. I mean, this was like a mindless day today. It was so mindless. It was a lot of sitting on a hard bench in utter silence. Just like everyone silent. I started reading Pistol Daisy by Natalia Lee, and I don't know that I like it. My problem is the book can't decide if it's going to subvert misogynistic tropes and rhetoric, or if it's going to play into them, and it just keeps going back and forth. It was really good. Everyone wore masks. The only person who ever took it off was the bailiff, who seemed to think, I don't understand people who think I can't hear you unless you take your mask off. I hear you perfectly fine. There is no situation where that one piece of fabric muffles your voice. Just talk at your normal volume. Like, the only problem is for people who are used to reading lips and who understand better by reading lips. Obviously, the mask covers that up. And so yeah, if you're gonna like stand back and make it so that like, but it is also a question she could ask. Be like, hey, does anyone need to read? Which actually I think that's a screen out thing, unfortunately. I think being hard of hearing is one of the things they don't let you on a jury for, unfortunately. Which actually doesn't seem fair. Well, they could have an interpreter. Oh, it shouldn't be a screen out factor. But either way, she didn't ask anyone. She just like kept doing it every time she would be talking, even like to one-on-one people. She just kept doing it. I was like, it's the one thing that drives me crazy. I actually have to tell people at work, stop doing that. Like, you can just leave your mask on. It does not muffle your voice. It does not muffle your voice. I don't know if you have one of those like proper N95 ones. Maybe it does. I've never had anyone wear any kind of mask where I couldn't hear them because of the mask. Stop taking your mask off to talk to people. Doesn't need to happen. That's been my PSA. She was the only one who did it though. Like, everyone else pretty much wore the mask the whole time. It was really nice. I am gonna go eat now. So next video in this particular vlog is gonna be from next week. Bye! Okay, so this is my second day of being on jury duty. This is Monday, so Thursday was the first day, and then there's no court Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I guess. So then today, I was in the afternoon group. Okay, so they had us split up, and this, it turns out it's all because of COVID. The judge actually went over it because I got to see the judge this day. So they had split us up into groups just because you couldn't have that many people in the same room. So rather than doing one big group where they talked to everybody one time, they had to break us into groups and talk to people at least 3 times, 3 groups I know of, but it sounds like maybe there were 4 groups initially. So, yikes. But anyway, so today I got there and we basically sat in like utter silence in a room. 20? There weren't 20 though. There was less than 20 of us this time. I don't know who didn't show up or anything. But we sat in like utter silence for a solid hour, and then the bailiff came back in and all of the middle-aged men were just sent off. Like, all of the older men just got cut. Like, one dude turned out to be part of the group. I thought a younger guy was the one who stayed, but it turned out it was an older guy. Only then one man who was white and older stayed with the group. And so then the group was like pretty small, mostly women and the ethnic minorities. It suddenly got cut down to, which was interesting and kind of probably says something about the previous groups or something. This is all going to be parts now that like I can't post this vlog until this trial is public. So I know this is going to be sitting on my hard drive for a while, and I just want to talk about like everything just in case I don't get picked, because I am in the final selection, which is like kind of exciting, although I feel bad for my coworkers because they're getting screwed over, but at the same time, like, this is really exciting for me. Like, I want to serve on a jury, I want to do this. I might still not. I'm supposed to get an email tonight telling me basically like when and where to show up tomorrow, but I am supposed to go back tomorrow. As of right now, I want to talk about the case because once we went back, they kind of talked about, I think they might have given us like too much information, but it was really interesting. So they had to socially distance us, but like once all of the older men were out, there were only 6 of us. So we had a really small group at the end. We just sat spread out among the juror seats, and the judge talked to us and kind of apologized for the way the system is. And it was like, it's cool, dude. I'm really nervous. I was so nervous. Like, my stomach kept growling. I ate a little bit early. I probably should have eaten more. I don't know, my stomach just kept growling all day, and I felt so embarrassed when we were sitting in the silence. My stomach was just like, that was awkward. But so we went in. The judge was behind screens, and then there, kind of in front of him, was the defense for the state, the 2 lawyers there, and then the defendant was there, and his lawyer, and then like the bailiff, and then the person who, I don't remember what they're called, but they do the notes, where both went back behind the screen also. Like the plexiglass thing that, you know, you see at the grocery stores and stuff now. So, and then there were 2 cops, like on either side of the room. One of them was like in charge of the door we came in, and the other one was like chilling in the corner. I don't know what he was doing. And then there was somebody else, but I only saw her as we were leaving it, so I don't know if that person was there. Actually, yes, I do, because I had heard her at the very beginning. I think it was a translator for the defendant. So I believe then he must have either primarily or only spoke Spanish, because I did hear her translating for him. It's kind of exciting. So basically, it is a murder case, but we are not trying the murder. So the defendant was charged with murder in the 2nd degree. But what we're here for, there's nothing to do with whether or not he's guilty of that this trial is about. This trial is about whether or not he is competent enough to stand trial. So as they asked questions, and they were being like vague, and so at one point I was kind of like, I think, kind of like partly shaking my head, and the prosecutor for the state asked me, he was just like, what are your thoughts on this, because you're kind of shaking your head? And I was just like, I'm really confused, like what the spectrum is, because they kept talking about like mental illness or mental defects or mental deficit, like different words for things, and it was so broad. And I was just like, I feel like there's like very big differences in spectrums. Like someone who has like a developmental disorder or like is autistic is on a different spectrum from someone who is clinically depressed, which is why I said, I don't know if that's gonna get me booted. I don't know if they like that or not. That could be a deciding factor for me, is that I was just like, this is a really big, wide spectrum, actually. Like, you can't just say mental illness out and whether or not that equates to competency, but it sounds like, well, and everything I kept coming back to, like, in my heart, because some of the times it was like, I mean, this is, they talked about, it sounds like it was a pretty gruesome murder, and it sounds like he murdered his mother. And I don't know if they were supposed to give us that much detail, but they did. He murdered his mother. And now they're not even talking about whether or not he was competent when he did it. They're talking about whether or not he is competent enough now. And I believe they're pleading schizophrenia. And it was interesting. I've been very interested in schizophrenia. I was writing a novel about a person with schizophrenia back in high school, and then I really started getting into it and looking into it, and I was kind of obsessed for a little bit in high school, and then I kind of trailed off. But yeah, it sounds like they're pleading that he's schizophrenic and is not able to be tried because he's not competent enough to stand the trial and to help his defense attorney, that he's incapable of helping his defense attorney defend him. Which is, it's interesting, and it sounds like the entire burden of proving that is on the defense. And that was the thing, going back to that, the thing that I was just like, okay, I can withhold judgment until the defense proves to me that this is true. Like, that's the whole point. Like, they have to prove that this is true, that he is too incompetent now to stand trial now. And I was like, okay, if it's all the burden is on them, then I'll just listen to the whole trial and then reserve my judgment to the end. But it's hard to just say that, you know, like, yeah, I feel that, like, yeah, obviously I could listen to everything. And they were kind of going back and forth, like, the state prosecutors were asking, like, trying to equate it to, like, children, like, at some point they learn consequences, and, like, only 2 of the people had ever had children, so that kind of fell apart. And most of us were, I mean, I'm not that young anymore. I guess I'm of the age I should probably have children. One of the other women too. It was so vague the way they were talking about things, like trying to get us to basically be like, oh no, I would be biased in some way or not. But they didn't dismiss anyone then. One of the lawyers just kept looking at me, and I kept making eye contact with him, which is why I think, because then he was the one who was asked me directly about the mental health things. And I was just like, we keep making eye contact, it's getting weird. I don't know if he was doing that with everybody, but it was just like, suddenly, both of us are looking at each other. So that was very awkward. But I couldn't see the defense attorney from where I was sitting, and the other prosecutor kept his eyes on his own paper, but the other guy was just like always looking. But yeah, it just sounds like it'd be such an interesting case. Like, they kept emphasizing, they're like, they're going to bring up facts about this murder. Like, the way they kept talking about it was like, you're gonna get some facts that are going to be, it sounds like it's going to be difficult to get from there to, no, this guy shouldn't be tried. But that's what the defense is trying to prove, that, like, no, he is not competent enough to be tried for this thing that he did. Which, like, it sounds like that's a tough thing to swallow, but it sounds like also a lot of the witnesses are going to be mental health experts, like psychologists, psychiatrists, and it's like, okay. But it also, and they brought it up and then kind of dropped it, the defense is not going to be on the stand. They're not going to speak. He's not going to say anything for himself, which I feel like it's his right. And so they're like, you can't hold it against him. I was like, all right, I don't hold it against him. But it does seem like it would be easier to come to a conclusion after hearing from him directly on whether or not he's competent. But if we're not given that, I feel like you almost are going to need more proof, you know? But at the same time, it's like, well, I gotta withhold judgment till you've given me all the proof. And like, yeah, maybe I will wish that we had heard from him. But if we are not hearing from him, then I will have to give my thoughts, like, on whether or not he's competent enough based upon what we are given. Like, that's the whole point of the trial, is they give us the evidence, and then we're like, cool, with this evidence, this is the decision. I guess it's all based on that. And it's really exciting. It's really cool. I don't know, like, it's kind of an exciting trial. It's interesting to be, like, on essentially a murder trial where you're not trying the murder at all. Like, that is not the point. This is all to do with mental health, and it's something that's really interesting to me. It'll be really difficult too, and I think it'll be really hard because it can be such a vague, and they kept talking about it in vague terms to the point where it was like, mental health is on so many different things. It's not one spectrum. You can't just be like, mental health, opinions, like yes or no, for or against. It's like, what are we talking about? Like, if we are talking about schizophrenia, and does this guy have schizophrenia, we're gonna need to hear from some serious experts on the matter, and like really understand that, like, now he is having a psychotic break. But at the same time, like, I feel like I understand psychotic breaks probably a little bit. And so, like, him having a psychotic break now doesn't necessarily mean he can't stand trial next month, but it could also mean, if he's not having a psychotic break now and could stand trial now, that he could not stand trial next month. Like, you know? it just completely depends, and I want to know. I want to be on this trial and like get all the information. I need the chisme, and I know I can't talk about this. I can't talk about this with anyone else, which is the whole reason I'm making the vlog, so I can just like talk about it, because whether or not he's schizophrenic, and of course he's sitting right there. And also, they just kept rattling off names. They're like, you don't recognize anyone in the courtroom, and of course everyone's wearing a mask, but it's like, no, I don't. And then they're like, okay, we're gonna name some names. And he just rattled off these names, and it was like long names, like doctors, doctor this person with all these names, this person. And it was just like, even if one of them suddenly rang a bell, I couldn't, before you got to the next one, put a face to that name. Like, so someone could stand up on the trial and be like, look at me, and I'd be like, oh, I know you, and I wouldn't have known from the name. But I have probably not. That's a big state. It was so weird, and I also felt like so put on the spot, and you're just like sitting there, and also my chair was like scoochied all the way up, and my feet didn't quite reach the floor, and so I felt very awkward to trying to sit, because I was kind of up by myself in a kind of a corner where I had like a very good view, but also they had a good view of me, and my feet didn't quite reach the floor, and I didn't feel like I could just scoochie the chair back down, because I was just being nervous. And yeah, I don't know, they actually had a stretch break for us kind of in the middle, and then I calmed down and I was like, okay, I'm all right. But up until then, my heart rate had started going faster and faster and faster. I don't know if I was just like excited, I was nervous, I don't know, like I feel very put on the spot. And it's like they ask a lot of questions, but they don't ask anything that feels important to you, but then also like, what is important? And I'm like, I shouldn't like volunteer too much information. But they did ask if anyone has close contact with anyone with a severe mental health. I think they kept wording things like vaguely, like they used like defect and illness and some other word that I've already forgotten, like just intermittently, like they were the same thing, and it was just like, this feels not very PC. But anyway, so like court ends at 4 o'clock. We didn't get called into the courtroom until 3, and so as 4 o'clock crept up, the judge was like, anyone have a problem staying until 4:30? And there was also a girl who, she had marked that she wanted to talk about some of these things privately and not in front of the group, and so she did have to stay afterwards to talk to them even more, which is totally fair. Like, I mean, if you had a family member who had a severe thing that like you felt emotional about, I wouldn't want to cry in front of everybody, which I'm glad I didn't mention the bipolar thing, because I could have gotten choked up about that. I was already getting nervous just talking about anything. I don't know, you feel so put on the spot, but at the same time, like, it's interesting because at the same time, like, they're trying to choose the jury for them, so it's kind of, they're auditioning for you also. Like, they want to find the best person, but you're the one who is important here, is basically it. Like, they need to choose you, they have to like accommodate you, and I don't know. It's interesting because it's kind of back and forth where like, I'm so nervous and oh, I want to say then do the right thing, and like, oh, we're in front of the judge, but at the same time, like, they want to pick you and they want you to be happy and you to give the best answers and you to understand things correctly. And yeah, it was fun. It was interesting. I hope I get chosen. And also I'm not supposed, I can't talk to anybody about it. They like made sure, they're like, you cannot look up anything about the trial or any of the people in the trial. Do not look up any information, none of the old news articles, nothing. And do not talk to anybody about it. So me talking to the camera right now, I'm getting it all in my system because I can't tell anybody. I can't tell anybody anything, it sounds like. Just mum. And then of course as we're leaving the courtroom, all of us 6 jurors were like, so that was a thing. That was weird. That was more than I thought it was gonna be. And like, this poor guy is like he's a pilot for an airline. He was just like, I've never considered any of the things they were asking. Every time they asked a question, I was so put on the spot. And it was just like, yeah, it is a lot. But I don't know. I'm gonna have to keep checking my email tonight now and finding out if I'm actually gonna be going tomorrow. Because the judge was like, show up here again at 9. And then the bailiff was like, that's not set in stone, so I'm gonna email you. And I was just like, please email us before 9 o'clock because, like, I want to know. Like, do I need to shower early? Like, what needs to happen? I only have so many nice clothes. Most of my clothes are not nice because I wear scrubs to work, so I don't need to dress nice for work. It's like, this is my nicest top. I'm wearing it today, can't wear it tomorrow. When am I gonna wear it tomorrow? I'm not sure. As a little break, I want to just, this for the camera, this is gonna be the first time you get to see Cora, who is our new kitty. She's Josh's kitty. Probably she's gonna have been on my YouTube channel before then, but this is the first time I'm filming her. So wait, over here is Zuko, of course, you know Zuko. He sits with me when I sit over here. He's sucking on his blanket. Here's Pi, you know Pi. And here is Miss Cora. Yeah, Miss Cora's over here. She's Josh's kitty. And I'm sure by now she'll have been on more videos, but a little break from all the craziness. Y'all, I'm on the jury. How today went. About an hour and a half of sitting in silence. Like, everybody came back. There was a lot of people there. Enough to fill 2 rooms, so at least 40 people back. All of the people from the group that I was in last night, and then just a ton of other people. One guy said he had been there from the original Wednesday group last week, where there was only 4 of them. They said they went through the whole process of talking to the lawyers, and then he got called back, and then the lawyers actually recognized him and were like, didn't we talk to you in the previous group? When he got called in with the next group on Thursday. And then he didn't get on the jury. Like, why did they have him coming back all that time? But yeah, I'm on the jury. And it's just so crazy. Like, not much happened today. Like, literally, it was kind of chaos. Our bailiff might have a lot on her plate. She's very scatterbrained. So an hour and a half we sat and just waited on hard benches again. And I almost finished reading Pistol Daisy. And I'm on, I think, the last chapter. Not much has happened. Once again, our numbers got called. And I actually recognized a lot of the numbers because the numbers of the people who had been there, they ask every single time. Because I guess normally you'd wear like a badge and people could see your number. But they just random assigned us numbers. They just kept asking. So I had recognized some people. Like, there's one woman there who I guess we're friends now. We just kind of talked beforehand, and she's really nice and I like her, and she's gonna be on the jury too. So yay, there's some people I like. But so our numbers got called out into the hallway, and I recognized her number, and I recognized a few other numbers. And then we kind of stood out there for a little bit, and then the bailiff lined us up, and she just kept mixing up the numbers. Like, literally, she started with 30 and then went down the line and was like, you guys need to stand in this order. And then she got to 49 and then stopped. And then she counted up to before 49 and then stopped again and was like, and what's your number? 40, and she said 49. She was like, okay, you don't need to be there. You can sit down. And so she went and sat down. And then she finished the rest of the line very quickly all of a sudden after like going painstakingly through the first ones. Then we got into the courtroom. Well, 49 was missing because she was supposed to be part of our group. And the lawyers and the judge were all like, well, where is she? And the bailiff's like, I have no idea. And I was just like, she's the one you told to sit back down. She literally lined up and you told her to get out of the line. I don't know. This seems a little crazy. But also, we got our confirmation that we were supposed to show up this morning at pretty late last night. It was after 8 o'clock when I got the email, and it's in all caps. And it was just like, show up at this time. Same thing we've been doing. It was like, cool. But so we went in, mostly the judge apologized for the process. Like, normally I guess you'd be one big room, all the jurors together, and then it'd be like one day. Like, they'd choose their jury and then you'd all go home and know if you're on the jury or not. And instead this was like 4 days of them going back and forth with small groups and having to redo their entire like spiel each and every time. They kind of just counted us. They were like, any problems? The lady did have some concerns, but it was things that like should have been caught before, and she acknowledged that, and they were like, it's kind of too late. Hey, Cora. One guy had already talked to the judge and was like, my kid could be born during this time period. Hey. Oh, look, it's Cora. Yes. So that's exciting for him, I guess. But yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do about that because they didn't dismiss him or anything. They're just like, yep, you're still on. And we did that, and then they were like, okay, well, we need to deliberate a little bit more. So they sent us back to the rooms where everyone was still waiting. They said, oh, those people are gonna get dismissed. But everyone was still in there. So like this older guy, we were of course sitting 6 feet apart, and he talked very softly, but I was trying to listen. Had some questions for me about like what's going on. That's when he told me that he had been there on Wednesday, like super early. So we kind of chatted a little bit, and I didn't say anything, even though they had told us when we went in the first time. They're like, you're gonna be the jury, everyone else is getting dismissed. And I was just like, oh, I was so happy. I'm glad I'm wearing the mask because I just kept smiling. I was like, is it weird that I want to be on this trial, that I want to be on a, it's not a murder trial, it's a mental health trial. It's just like, it's so interesting, and I don't know, I was so worried that I was gonna be kicked off of it, and I get to be on the trial, and I'm really excited, and I think all my coworkers are gonna be mad at me, but like, it's not my fault. I didn't like do anything different than I would have done if I didn't want to be on it. Like, you have to be honest and truthful, and I want to be on it. I just think it's gonna be really interesting, and I'm going to continue this vlog and talk about things. I don't know, I was conflicted because I was like, if I'm getting kicked off the jury, I'm just gonna take out all the information about the trial and post this as a video. But because I'm on the jury, I really want to post like a long video that has like all of this, like all of my thoughts from the beginning. So I think I'm gonna end up doing that. I've never been on a jury before. I've never been called for jury duty before, nothing. And I get to be on this trial, and it's an exciting one. Like, trying to prove whether or not this guy can stand trial for a murder, and they're gonna talk to us about this murder. And it's like, I'm so nervous and like excited, and like, you don't want to do or say the wrong thing, but I also want to like, I want to do a good job. As a juror, I want to do a good job. I'm not going to be posting this video obviously for quite a long time. I'm going to film another quick video because in an hour I need to go into work, and then I work tomorrow, and then Thursday the trial starts, and I start that, but it's only Monday through Thursday, so then I work Friday, Saturday, and I'll be going back to court again on Monday. I don't know, I'm super excited. I'm like nervous, and I'm kind of losing my weekends, but I also get off at 4 rather than 5:30, and I don't know. It's a different thing. Like at work, I'm like, I gotta be on top of everything all the time, and like so many things are going on, and you're doing like 5 different things, and I'm so mentally and physically exhausted by the end of the day. But with this one, the way that Josh described his is like, it's political theater. They're going to perform for you, and you just have to pay attention. And so I need to get like a little notebook and just pay attention, and I think it'll be really exciting. I'm so happy. Wish me luck. Okay, bye.